Here we go on the jog. It is the 22nd of July, and I gotta make it in time. Will I make it in time? Well, I guess I gotta hurry up. Gotta speed it up. Gotta go on those toes from my neighborhood to my old neighborhood to watch a little bit of that. Going to see Superman. So we're gonna go on these toes, and yeah, we're gonna be jogging. The sun is hot. Grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bill is paid. Got food and coffee. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. And working out, train, exercising. Turn your heads left or right before you cross the streets. Because you never know. Brakes might malfunction. Electricity of the brakes. There might be an impediment. So those are the things which we gotta watch out when we're in the public. Grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, got food and coffee. Gonna go see Superman. I left a little bit late, so I'm gonna have to hurry up because I don't wanna be late for the movie. So I gotta press a bit, but be extra careful, of course, because safety first. With some liberty, some joy. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, and working out, train, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. Last week we're going where we went last week, last Tuesday. Today it is the 22nd of July. I already started a little bit of that sweat because it's hot. It's getting hotter than yesterday. It's gonna get even hotter. I guess we have a fifth heat wave already. Well, we had a heat wave also, we had a heat wave in the spring, so now it's summer, so gotta take that into account, I guess. Grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, got food and coffee. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Got 5 seconds, 4 seconds is all I need. 3, 2, 1. Look at that beautiful sky. And now it's my time to pass, but still turn the head left and right. Even if it's one's time to pass, you still encourage all to turn that head and look at how beautiful skies. It is a hot day today, so I gotta be pacing on the toes. I'm now wearing the military grade steel toe boots, wearing those red and white running shoes, which are perfect for running. My anonymous friend, acquaintance, I guess, gonna become a friend, of course, because you know I have Asperger's, so being an Aspies, we don't have lots of friends. From now on, friends with benefits only, just to be fully understood, you know. Gotta get on that friends with benefits only. That's how we got, and that's how I gotta rock and roll with that. And that's how we drill, you know, 24/7 for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors. The youth are happy, I'm happy. That's what matters, and I gotta give a shout out to the workers here who built this great. This is all new. This is all new, and I like the turquoise, so it's really beautifully done, and get some exercise, and this is really great. So thank you to the workers. I guess it requires some financing, but it's super nice, and it's great for fitness, and you can come slide and do rollerblades, and that's super nice. Just you gotta be careful and be protected, of course, because wow, it's really better than I was expecting. They come, and you know, I would have put some rainbow a bit also, like some red in it, but it's kind of nice. So from my old neighborhood, from my new neighborhood to the old, nothing that I want to go back to, but that's where the affordable cinema is. Beautiful clouds. Look at those clouds. They just look like a perfect picture, you know. And I guess Mother Nature has the ways, and the ways of Mother Nature sometimes are congruent and in that perfection. And I gotta give a shout out again to the public workers who built this baseball field here. You know, a baseball field, and something which of course requires brains and muscle. Is we gotta get that gratitude for them, because fellow citizens are gonna use it, and it's always good to have a little bit of embellishment of the public sphere, you know. it's always good to embellish a little bit and get on those toes, and of course be on the march as I am now. And fitness and hydration, of course, is super important to get it now. Love it. And the youth being, they're innocent because the youth are innocent, you know. They're playing safely, securely. That's what matters. And you got some shade if you so need here, because it's getting hot, already considerably hotter than yesterday. So we're gonna go on those appellations, and we're gonna go left and right and in the middle. And we're gonna, of course, transfuse to cross the street here from the left to the right. Sometimes they come, you know, fast. So I gotta be on the steps, you never know. Sometimes just the brakes can potentially malfunction, you know. So the brakes can malfunction. The citizen driver might press the accelerator instead of the brake. So there's just two possibilities of why I always encourage in the public added responsibilities, citizens, and obligations, and added responsibilities to my fellow citizens' dynamics, and the public to take that double prudence, you know, because safety and liberty and my individual sovereignty, my individual sovereign liberty, and this work, because I'm investing in my body, and you know what it is with me. It's 24/7 geopolitics, sports and fitness, and rock and roll. Gotta admire this beautiful garden. Really beautiful. Look at those yellow flowers. Every time I pass here, it's like so refreshing. And this is, I guess, senior citizen home. And look at those. Beautiful. How it's done. Just a combination of the flowers is just one of my favorite spots to pass. Because I just love those yellow flowers and all multiple colored flowers. I just love when it's luscious and a combination of several multiple layers of flowers, you know. Something that I enjoy on my walks. Your fitness journey starts today. I always say, you know, your fitness journey starts today as mine starts today. See here, there's still a pedestrian, but you still gotta turn a little bit to clock it in. Left and right, do the hawk. What I call do the hawk gaze in the public. And children should be, I guess, maybe encouraged to appellate to do the hawk. Left, right, left, right, left, right. You know, don't necessarily flip the wings, but just done that N.A.C.W.P hawk here, my favorite bird here from Montreal, Hawk Island. And I'm less moody than last week. Last week I had a few days I was a bit moody, but this week is better. Today's Tuesday. I'm grateful, thankful I got a few dollars to get it on that appellation, to get on the love side of things. And you know, we gotta respect a little bit of the circulation here that says use the other one, and that's what it is. And that's what we gotta get on the go, you know. Here as we go, you know. So now we're going to my own neighborhood. Basically we're going east, in the direction of the east. If you gotta say east, that's south, that's north, and I'm coming from the west. So I'm basically going east, right? I'm basically going east. You know? So that's something which we have to be complimentary about, and we gotta see it on the go, and that's what we always take it a little bit a step extra further, to take that double prudence and to get accessorized and to get it as much as we can get it for all those butchers, bakers, nurses, and doctors, and firefighters, and electricians, and plumbers, and thinking about them, you know, marching steps, jogging for them as well, and always for the daycare workers, nurses, changing diapers, you know, is something which is really crucial for our North American collective, you know, to appreciate all the diversities which we have, and which of course are part of our daily experience and part of this great privilege which is civilization, you know. And civilization is really a privilege considering all things, the electricity, the running water. And gotta give a shout out to the workers of the past, the Hydro-Quebec, and those who did the underground sewers, the sewers, the aqueducts, to have running water, potable drinking water. It's always things which we might maybe not, through our busy, stressful life, we might not be conscious or think about on a daily basis. But as I am a philosopher, artist, athlete, and geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and I develop geopolitical strategy mostly for binational Canada and United States joint, but extended to the NATO complex and I guess for world peace. But suffice it to say that I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. So I like to be of service as I can, and of course I gotta give a shout out to those who are doing some deliveries on the go now. You know, I don't know if Canada Post decided to get on strike because I was mostly watching international news, geopolitics of an international scale, and that's what I do on the 24 basis, you know, due to this condition known as Asperger's. That's how my brain functions, and Aspi brains are different, eh? So I'm part of this tiny minorities. I discussed it in past videos, and due to these mutations, of course, they're not visible exterior in the outside external cranium, but of course they're really in depth at the micro nano level, right? So think about it as transistors or microchips, like 4 little microchips. Look at those beautiful vivid flowers with the sun shining on them, just bright life. So that is basically the condition of Asperger's due to these mutations, and the cause is inconclusive. The cause is inconclusive. So it's partly hereditary, it can be a combination. Hereditary, there's biological hereditary genetic factors, or environmental it can also be. So there's no really an agreement. So the causes of Asperger's are inconclusive, but again, it's not a mental illness. The important thing to stress is that it's not a mental illness, but yes, in certain things, myself, I'm mediocre, less able, and of course less able and mediocre, and have some difficulties. We do generally aspects in things of the social nature. Social communication can be different, divergent, and a bit bizarre, awkward, and odd, and sometimes how we carry ourselves and the movements, body movements, or other such things are of course more odd and abnormal than of course the normative population to have as we have, on the parallel of us being a tiny small fraction of the population of a community of less than 1%, less than half of a percent is 0.44%. 0.44%. Compared to you, the 99.56%, you can subtract and make the mathematical comparison, and you realize how a tiny small fraction of the population of course from Quebec or Canadian North American perspective, first and foremost, but generally that's the case for Aspies. 0.44%, that's why a lot of people don't know. That's why a lot of people don't know, you know. That's why a lot of people don't know what Asperger's is, you know. So that's what we got, you know. So we got on that go. And here we cross the street, you know. It's something we got, you know, to get out on the left side of things with that. And we gotta get some of those flowers. Look at that. Roses. I think they get a lot of that. Good roses that are mostly, of course, pinkish in substitution. And, of course, the self-awareness. I don't know if they're self-aware, but the awareness, I guess, of the roses in the public, I guess, should be a rock-and-roll song, you know, to get it on the go, and something that would be a song that I could sing in terms of inspiration of rock and roll. And I see some roses in the concrete, next to the concrete, or butterflies, because that's what I do, you know. So, Aspies, we have those special interests. And those special interests, of course, preoccupy our daily habits, routines, right? So most of our lives are spent with intensity, super focus, super concentration when we are involved in those special interests, engaged in those special interests, also known as obsessive interest. That's basically where most of our time lies, with intensity, super focus, super concentration. And my trinity of special interest, aka obsessive interest, is sports and fitness. You know, sports and fitness, rock and roll, and geopolitics. And of course, I take great pride in my geopolitical work, you know, because it's something which you endeavor to be on the side of the appellation of you can endeavor to understand as most of you can, you know. From the perspective of a neurotypical perspective, it might seem as they're obsessive, although the word obsessor, you know, it's something which is not used by myself, since it doesn't render justice to what Asperger's, how we are with our psychic mental energies. Our psychic mental energies are super directed, super focused, super concentrated intensely, and with concentration on those special interests, you know. And those special interests are something which we have on the matter of course, of the whatever special interest, because of course it's a variation. And my individual special interest as an individual sovereign citizen with Asperger's, my special interests differ from somebody else, you know. And of course it's different from somebody else, and of course that divergence is of course the appellation of myself expressing myself as much as I can in a geopolitical matter, or what I know to be the sphere, of course, of geopolitics. And that sphere, it's like a whole universe, right? It's not just one thing, you know. It's not just not one thing, you know. So that's what it is. It's not just one thing, you know. It's not just one thing. Look at those. Wow, that's so nice, man. It's not just one thing, no. It's not just one thing, you know. It's not just one thing. So of course that one thing is something which of course we gotta endeavor to become on the appellation side of all the things of which we do, you know. And of course the knowledge and the understanding is something which we have consequently on the prudent side of things, and we gotta mindfulness of the terminologies employed, because it's obsessive from a neurotypical perspective might employ that word for a neurotypical. You might employ it as in a relation to your obsessions, but for Aspies, it's special interest. And Aspies, we find a lot of joy in those special interests. Myself, again, not for the whole Aspie community do I venture to pronounce myself in such an intellectual, academic, rhetoric manner, but in the subtractum, of course, that we are subtracted from the population in a tiny minority type of consequential percentile. And of course, being that we're not that many, a lot of people don't even know what Asperger's is. So those dogs are getting friendly a bit. Maybe, I'm not sure. I like dogs, but I can't pet them too much, except for poodles, because they're hypoallergenic. So that's the distinction, the marking distinction which one needs to do in the full comprehension of the daily ritual. We have like ritual routines, you know. Ritual routines. So those ritual routines preoccupy our daily habits, and most of our times are spent either working, being engaged, or doing those special interests, right? So that engagement, that super intensity, super focus, and concentrated directly towards those special interests. But again, they can be to the detriment of other things. That's the problem. Where the problem can occur potentially is that, of course, yes, they can of course enable and be negative towards other consideration of a social sphere. For example, social knowledge and awareness, and certain things that we Aspies have as not as symptoms, but as characteristics. Because characteristics and traits, they're not symptoms. Symptoms is an illness, but Asperger's is not an illness. But definitely in certain things we can manifest certain we are less able, less capable. Things of a social nature, social dynamics, our brains are wired differently, they're made differently. So this divergent mutation in the brain makes us that we look at the world differently. So when I'm involved, for example, hours and hours and hours with 2-3 coffees, and I do geopolitical revision, geopolitical studies of events of a daily basis, going back in the past and revising and doing, of course, intellectual, academic, geopolitical work for hours and hours and hours. That for me is a joy, and it's a natural habitat. When I do rock and roll, I can go on and on, and I do daily rock and roll. I create daily songs, and I'm good at that. I'm good at rock and roll, creating rock and roll on the daily basis, and that's what I do, you know. It's rock and roll on a daily basis, and I rock and roll a bit for the public workers, changing out those asphalts so that we drive safer, think about it, you know, the asphalt work is necessary, so we got to get some of those public workers, all the work under the Arbeit, which they're doing it. Something which I know, I understand they're paid by the hour. The problems with ASPIs are three main problems. The lack of friends. I don't want to have friends except friends with benefits from now on. Friends with benefits or pledge your allegiance. So that's what I'm gonna roll on rock and roll. Friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance. Support the dream. My dream fundamentally is the call for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilization complex. When I say support the democratic imperial republic, it's fundamentally a call to establish and do consequently a public-private partnership. That's basically and fundamentally what that is all about. And of course you gotta check past videos to comprehend it and understand it more and fully on how that expression is manifested in the expressive manners of course being itself fully integrated with my aspiness and my work as a geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who's not perfect, far from it, and who of course is going to see a movie with some smile, with some joy, financially stressed. Right now, my only stress is financial. One thing which could really change my life would be to afford a massage therapy sessions, because I lost between 80 and 93 pounds, you know. So that would be a good improvement in my quality of life. A regular massage, you know. Doesn't have to be every day, but if it's twice a week, I'll be super happy. Let's say Wednesday and Saturday, in between days. Just an hour, you know, it doesn't have to be a big one. So friends with benefits only, pledge your allegiance, and that's how we rock and roll. Pledge your allegiance. And of course, the other problem is lack of employment. The employment for ASPIs is 80%. 80% unemployment. Can you imagine that for you and your typicals? Is, you know, it's about 7-6. For ASPIs, it is 80%. 80%. That is something which consequently you have to integrate in your knowledge of everything that you do from now on till whenever. That of course our unemployment rate is 80%, which is totally unacceptable. If you think about that, if you meditate that point, that it's 11 times higher the unemployment, you're gonna see. And of course I had many employments. The problem is durations. The duration is 4 months, 3 months, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It doesn't, because we're different. So the things sometimes you have to be told more directly, or ourselves we can be pretty direct and straightforward. And that's why I say I don't want to waste anybody's time, you know. Friends with benefits only. If you're black or white or black, you know, if you're a man, woman, you know, and I am also not part of the neurodivergent community, but also the ASPI community, the LGBTQ community, of course, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get that drilling. So it's always something which we have to appellate, of course, into the interjectionality of our integration in the community as a whole, from our perspective, and how our dynamics are played, you know. So our dynamics, our lives are constructed and of course are greatly involved around those special interests. And those, the problem is that, like I said before, stated before, that they can be to the detriment of other. So basically we can neglect other things, right? So we can neglect other things which are of a social nature, the more social nature of the dynamics at hand, and that's how we got, and that's how we are. So basically, those fundamental aspects of aspiness can be translated in the category that we can repeat things, you know, 2-3 times. So this is a category. This is a characteristics. The characteristics, of course, is that we can repeat things 2-3 times. We can have the characteristic known as echolalia. So we might say exactly word for word somebody has phrased the exact sentence. Right, because those are characteristics of aspiness, Asperger's. It's not by volition or ill will. It's just how, of course, they are in the consequential manner of how we are on a daily basis due to these mutations of the brain. And there's no medication, right? You cannot medicate Asperger's. You cannot medicate Asperger's because I have to work on my characteristics and I have to always manage my characteristics, but to a certain degree, you learn to live with them, such as, of course, the personal space issue, you know. Most people have a personal space, 2 feet, whatever, yard, whatever the case may be, meter. Aspies, our brain, due to these mutations, we tend to breach that personal space and get close, too close, so close to an individual that it might render that individual uncomfortable. Alarm or fear for the safety. It's not that we mean to do it. It's just I have to always take a step back, as it happens even in my past videos. Sometimes you see in my conversation, especially on the mountain Mount Royal, and I take a step back because I realize, I gotta work and I gotta see how my brain now works. Due to the fact that this point event now here, I see these trucks coming from the south. They might be coming from Mexico, from the United States, the 50 states, and they're going north. So this point event in my life now, heading towards the movie on the 22nd of July, my brain now switches and I integrate this moment here in a meditative state, and integrate it with my special interest. And being that I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and of course an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who also develop strategy for the North American Collective, for SSD, usually security, service and defense, and the continuity of the North American civilizational complex. And now, of course, I know that due to our involvement, what I call DMA by NATO or NORAD involved, direct military action towards non-NATO aligned diaspora, non-NATO aligned member states, we are open for potential sabotage and espionage, because our trucks, salutations, rock and roll to the truckers, they carry, some of them carry cheese, some of them carry eggs, some of them carry bacon, some of them carry sausage. Whatever they are that they're carrying in terms of the goods is of course very important for our North American collective, for the youth, for the children, for the nutrition. They could be carrying, of course, eggs, bacon, sausage, bread, lettuce, apples, all sorts of fruits, and of course those fruits are for our nutrition and for our here. As I enter my own neighborhood, I used to live, I don't remember much of my life prior to 2014 spring. I used to live over there. In a very underground small basement with lots of black mold, yellowish type of reddish white mold, and it was like a tight prison cell. I thought I moved in 2016, but supposedly I moved in 2015. So that's been a few years on the journey, and I was depressed, suicidal. The problem is, of course, as Aspies, we suffer a lot from depression. Depression and suicidal tendencies, along with unemployment, are 11 times. So depression rates and suicidal rates are 9 times higher. 9 times higher. 9 times. That's a lot. 9 times higher. While of course unemployment is 11 times. 11 times. 11 times higher. Just gotta stretch a bit here. Do a little bit of that stretching. A little bit of that neck stretch. Let's go, let's go. Let's go. Here my own neighborhood, you know. Just passing through, really. On this hot day. Nothing that I want to go back to, but of course something which we have to manifest, and that's something which we have to get prudent on like that, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know, as we go south and gonna get it on that go. And usually it's a joyous occasion because it's a beautiful day, and that's how we got, you know, something which we have to be doing, you know, on the appellation of things and on all the things and the dynamics of which we are involved. And that's how we got to getting on the go like that. And I'm going north now, and that's how we are to get doing, you know, something which we gotta appellate and we gotta consummate, and we just gotta live to acknowledge our difference. And I've been working on it for years, but for years and years and years, you know. For years and years and years. For years and years and years. For years, I've been told, but I refused it. Many people have diagnosed me. Many people have diagnosed me with Asperger's, HFA, but of course, I have refused to accept it. Until about 3.5 years ago during COVID, I gotta say I survived COVID, and having survived COVID is something which we gotta get that out of my system, because I have a lot to be grateful for still, and I thought I was gonna die there where I lived, and I moved, and that's what it is, and that's how we gotta get on that love, man. Yeah. Here my own neighborhood is sweating a bit. Seeing children joyous there. Dancing in the streets safely, securely. Dancing is my favorite sport, and that brought me the best moment of until now is the youth dancing, busting some dance moves, and you know, I say now rock and roll, and I dance. I can dance for hours. That's my favorite sport, and that's what I love, you know, to do most, I guess, as a fitness sports activity. Dancing is a sport, and you know, you got some of that loving, and that's something which we got. And look at that, that's so big. Look at that. That's what it is, and that's how we got it, you know, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know. For the Tilly there, we got Tilly, and we got a little bit of that good rock and roll, and that's what it is, man. Here we got each other, I guess, and all who come to join us in the empire, you know. And a lot of people suffer nowadays, especially economics, and paradoxically, I have some answer, not all the answers, but not all the answers, right? I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to have them all, but I have some, you know. I have some, especially when it comes to the DRT, dead fusion theory. The dead fusion theory for the creation of the UE is something which I consequently have to say myself. As much as I am mediocre, average, or so-so in certain things, it's something which I am great and excellent, of course, in some other things, right? So that is just consequently where we are involved today. And all the things we do under the sun, you know. Freedom is new. I wish I got freedom tatted up, and you know, I always open carry my flag. And that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on that rock and roll, man. Oops. Here you gotta usually pause a bit. I guess you can cross, but it's preferred not to. So what we can do is just zigzag, you know. We're just gonna zigzag a little bit, and we can go in a zigzag too. I used to live over there. Nothing that I will to go back to, you know. I was depressed, suicidal. High depression and suicidal rates for Aspies is 9 times higher, but employment also. Unemployment is 80% unemployment for Aspies. That's 11 times more, eh? 11 times higher than the neurotypicals. So that's something which is unacceptable, really, if you think about it in the sense that 80% of Aspies are unemployed is totally unacceptable. So I'm always working independently as an artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and tears. Gotta salute the other workers as well. The butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, you know, firefighters, the plumbers, electricians, and all those involved, you know, in the production, distribution of food. And I always say sometimes, I guess, because we're type of like aliens in the world, being a tiny minority, you know, being a tiny minority of the community is something which we have to be appellation about. And being that, of course, it's tiny minority of the population of Aspies, of Aspies, which of course we have as at Aspies, is this. I think we're put on the world maybe, and some ABC documentary claims that it's an evolutionary process having Asperger's, and I don't know about that because I definitely had roadblocks and rejections and losing employment, losing jobs, so I don't know about that. In geopolitics maybe, because that's my special interest, and I gotta say, because in geopolitics I predicted what's happening now. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. October, November, I predicted an international conflagration. I take great pride in my geopolitical work. In 2019, October, November, I had predicted on the horizon that there's gonna be an international conflagration, aka World War III. You heard that correct? And I have the proof. I have the proof of work because I have the videos. This video is documented because consequently I also created a workout training program system designed, made and created to go hand in hand with that relation, with that potential event, an international conflagration of World War III. And of course, in a general manner, not all details by details, it is of course something which have to get appellation about. So it's something which we have to acknowledge, that's who we are, so it's something which we have to appellate. That's what they are, and that's what they got, That's what we have to understand, fully, consequently, and they gotta get on that love, and that's how we gotta get drilling, It's, they gotta get on that go, and it's turning your heads left and right, when you cross the street here, Always turn your heads left and right when you cross the street. I guess it's better to cross at the lights. So we're going to the movies. And we gotta make sure that we cross the street prudently, Is that a bull or a... Wow, I like the sparkling, I see. That's what it is, and that's what it got. Here we're gonna cross the streets safely, prudently. I guess 7 seconds is all sometimes that we need. 4 seconds now, and gonna be just in time. Sometimes it's better late than never, Better late than never, and here consequentially, all our dynamics is to integrate fully with the energies of today. And having survived COVID, COVID for me was really, 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 I thought I was gonna die. It was really like death, pestilence, and disease, So I said I was gonna, between mid-February 2020 and mid-March 2020. So more than 5 years ago, I had COVID and got triple vaxxed, and I urge all, of course, to keep the protocols, the hygienic protocols of the COVID era protocols, to keep them fully and representatively, of course, that they are super beautiful yellow flowers, that they are, of course, part of ours, to have integrated those new habits of public hygiene. I believe that there's sometimes new habits, I guess myself have formed new habits and accept all my changes undergone since I moved from over here to my new place, and of course all the changes undergone together, and all the changes undergone now, and all the changes undergone by somebody now who's beginning their fitness journey, is getting married. And me, I'm androgynous pansexual, so you're black, white, black, you wanna LOV, consent, you gotta be of age though, So you gotta be of that age. Gotta be of age. Gonna card you just like when you go to get your whatever alcoholic beverage or cigarettes or cigars, or here it's legal cannabis coast to coast. So whatever situation for adult matter, that's how we're gonna rock and roll it, That's just gonna be the policy. Just like the policy is friends with benefits. Friends with benefits. So the policy is friends with benefits. Now, I'm really surprised there's almost nobody, if nobody on the field. So almost nobody, you know, on the field, you know. It's almost nobody here on the field, you know. That's what it is, and that's what we have. This beautiful field here. But interesting enough, it's maybe somebody coming there, and that's how we got, and that's how we got to go doing like that. That's how we got, and so we got to get rock and rolling, you know. So something which we got to fully understand, and something which. So that's what I'm gonna do when you're gonna be on the appellation, on the love things. Look how many birds there are. Look at these birds. Aren't they just gorgeous here? I don't know, just kind of tranquil and their loving ways, I guess. Somebody doing some nice art. I love that. Some people are talented a lot, you know. Some people have really good talent. Me, it's just rock and roll, but that's my talent now, and that's how I go. Going to the movies, hot day, sweated a bit. COVID survived being depressed, and that's us with Aspies. Lack of friends and social isolation and too much unemployment. Unemployment is way too high. Way too high. I like how that's with an 8, bonjour. That means hello in French, and it's getting hotter. You gotta get hydration. It's getting hotter on that, you know? Getting hotter. Getting hotter, man. Getting hotter, man. Getting hotter and hotter. It must have increased by a few degrees at least, you know. That's what it is, and that's what it is with that. Dedie. So Asperger's can be weird, can be strange, can be. The problems, like I said, are the lack of way too much unemployment and the depression and suicidal rates. And I don't need much support me, but the lack of also, you know, friends, I guess, but I don't mind. I'm friends with benefits only, and I made a lot of friends in the past 7 years, especially the Pride parades and other places, but I'm just keeping them because it's awkward, you know. That's what you got. That's what you gotta get doing, you know. That's what we got. Please, fellows, careful for the children. That it could be dangerous because it broke, and for the children, the youth, you know, if they touch that, it could be shards, and you can pick it up, and you know, that's how we gotta clean as soon as possible because we're in the public. I had the responsibilities and duties, obligations. Hot day, really hot, but not that hot for me, to be honest. I don't mind. It's just hotter than yesterday. If you take into consideration yesterday's temperatures, that means that today is a bit hotter. Supposedly it's gonna be even hotter tomorrow, but it's not that hot for me. I can manage. Just you gotta get hydration, drink water, you know, just water. That wasn't for me because I got plenty of seconds. Drilling in. Support the DRT, that Profusion theory. Support the UE, Universal Exchange Unit. Support the Empire, Democratic Imperial Republic. And here I am, part of my own neighborhood. I was attacked by surprise a few years ago, so I don't know if it's that caused retrograde amnesia. I have problems accessing my memories prior to spring 2014, where I used to live over here. And sometimes they come back. I don't know if I was a junkie, if I did alcohol, if I did, that's, I don't remember. Just was attacked by surprise, hit my head on the concrete, had a dislocated right shoulder, right arm. Went to the Jewish General Hospital. Went to the Jewish General Hospital. Went to the Jewish General Hospital and was cracked back, replaced, and I was put on some meds. You know. Put on some meds. I was like kind of in a blackout, kind of like in a coma type of state, you know. So I have trouble remembering my life. Look at those. I have trouble remembering my life prior to 2014. 2014, springish. Sometimes they come back again. I don't know if I was doing alcohol. Sometimes too much drinking alcohol can cause memory loss. You know, hard drug use, trauma, PTSD, and other things can cause it. Those are some of the things which can cause. But it's not like short-term memory. I have a good memory, good, of course, short-term. But N.A.C.W.P and amnesia kind of is on the trouble side, and they gotta get it for that love, and they gotta get it for those butchers, bakers, nurses, electricians, plumbers, and train conductors, all involved in the production, distribution of food. Gotta think about them, and it's not really important, I guess, but who I was prior to me moving. I guess I was in that moldy place. I guess I could say serve my time in some ways, eh? If I serve my time, but in a mystical way, I guess. But I survived, I moved, and here I am, you know. Sometimes I still get moody. I conquered being depressed and suicidal when I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event in my life, crossing Canada coast to coast, made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, who are considered family, Quebecers, Canadians, and my brothers and sisters in the USA. You know, I'm also a mystic. I believe in reincarnations, and some of my reincarnations were, of course, being born in the US 3 times. Once as a woman, though. Twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces. 2 different wars, same armed forces. The US Army, 156 years apart. Just read George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly. One of my favorite poems is George Patton's Through a Glass Darkly. That's what it is, and that's what we got here. Turning left and right and going in deep. Yeah, Three Glass Darkly, George Patton, the general, also believed in reincarnations, and that's what we got. And that's why rock and roll, beautiful sun, and beautiful day, and beautiful skies. And that's what we got, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, you know. So we got a rock and roll drill here and going in deep, turn, and here am I in my own neighborhood, and nothing that I will to go back to, because you know I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. I came out of being depressed, being suicidal, and the problem is still I'm financially stressed. I am financially stressed, really, here in my own neighborhood and passing by, and you know, I still come shopping sometimes because you still got some deals, and I come in now today, 22nd of July, to check a little bit of that movie. I'm somebody who doesn't like violence, you know. I don't like violence. I don't like violence. I do not like violence, you know. But I am here, and I am hyper vigilant, you know, and I'm different due to my aspiness. It's nothing that I can do about it but work on my characteristics and manage my symptoms, and that's what we do, and that's how we gotta rock and roll, man. Yeah, that's how we gotta get drilling. I'm a bit on the hungry, so I gotta stay hydrated. It's hot, so you gotta drink water. Just today you gotta drink water, and you gotta hydrate. Tomorrow is gonna be even hotter, supposedly, so I don't mind the heat. Because I ran a bit, and last time I did 66 minutes since I got it, and now I'm gonna try to beat, because otherwise I'm gonna be a little bit on the late side. So it's something which I gotta see together on the go. Here we are. Where the $5, $5 Cine Stars there. $5 on Tuesdays, which is good because that I can afford. Double that. It's a strain on the budget, so I'm grateful. Gonna go see a movie. Across the street here. He nodded, my fellow citizen nodded. That's how we are, you know. I gotta make sure I don't impede other people's or carrying luggage, or, you know, they're carrying items from the store, so I have the backpack, so I always gotta be mindful about others, you know. Here we are, part 1. Hey, not bad. I beat it under an hour. That's what I was aiming, because I thought I was gonna be late for the movie, but no. I'm JIT, just in time. I know the crows, you know my secrets. Well, I guess everybody got some, eh? That was 4. Tuk, 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 tuk. The crow crowed 4 times and acknowledged, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Maybe the crow's an archangel.